Yes, yes. Yup, that's me. I've played a lot of card games this year. Deck building roguelikes, strategies, CCGs, resource managers, adventure RPGs, all to figure out what makes these games so fun, so popular, and so addicting. What keeps people coming back to these games after all this time? Why did I set my table back up and head straight into another Balatro run? Today, we're going to go beyond the obvious surface level elements like stakes and synergies to take a deeper look at the psychology that makes these games tick. When it comes to gameplay, the medium of card game has two major advantages. The first being accessibility. Everyone is familiar with the concept of cards, decks, suits, trumps, dealing, and drawing.
Give me a green card! What are you doing?
And since most card games share a combination of these elements, it reduces the burden of learning a new game. You can often gauge the complexity just by looking at one of the cards. A card from Uno, for example, only has two pieces of information: a number and a colour. Or, well, depending on who you're playing with, it could also have the worst rule ever written on one of the blank cards. This simplicity reflects the game's complexity, or lack thereof. Learning a new card game and all its rules is always daunting, but if someone pulls out Uno at a party, the simple presentation of an Uno card lets the players know that this is an easy game to learn. If we compare that to something like Yu-Gi-Oh!, there is a lot more information on the cards. There's card colour, name, attribute, level, artwork, type, effect, attack, and defense. If you pull out Yu-Gi-Oh! At a party, the people who don't already know the rules are going to be like, hell no. I mentioned that the medium of card game has two major advantages. The second is modularity. Every card is a small piece of a larger, ever-changing puzzle, and the functionality of each card changes depending on the current state of that puzzle. These pieces can be easily taken from and distributed to players, and of course, with a simple shuffle of the deck, a new card game can be played that is entirely different from the last. These modular pieces are also often storytelling elements that connect to one another. The artwork and effects on some of these cards represent an attack, a defense, or some kind of other event. One card at a time, you're weaving a story like a tapestry, each battle or card effect representing a small part of the larger story. If you take something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering and look at a card game that's well underway, you can see the progression of the game through the placement of the cards. You'll see some cards or monsters placed on the field currently engaged in battle, and you'll see others in the graveyard or the discard pile, which acts like a ledger of transpired events, containing spells that have been cast and monsters that have been sacrificed or defeated in battle. One of my friends has a zombie deck in Magic the Gathering, and no matter how many zombies I sent to the graveyard, he had a couple cards in his deck that would just bring back most or all of these cards back to the field. Narrative moments and emotional spikes like this are always fun and memorable, and with the unpredictability of a shuffle in between two games, no two tapestries turn out the same. If the rat does the thing you want it to do, give it a piece of cheese. You get it. Whether the reward is a holographic card or a new hat for your character, it's exciting to know you're on the right path, doing the right thing, and getting a sense of accomplishment. Treats are fun, rewards are fun. Yes, thank you, Reggie, but let's dig deeper. I want to talk specifically about reward schedules. Reinforcement schedules or reward schedules are timelines and rules that determine when a player is rewarded for a desired behaviour. One of these schedules is continuous reinforcement, which are expected rewards. Examples of this are Balatro giving you money for completing a blind, or Slay the Spire rewarding you with gold and cards for defeating an enemy. These rewards are important for keeping players interested and motivated, but it's the other type of reward schedule I want to talk about today, one that elicits a stronger response. An intermittent reward schedule is where players are sometimes rewarded for a desired behaviour. Sometimes being the key word here. Examples of intermittent rewards are rare cards appearing in the Balatro shop, or finding rare cards and relics in Slay the Spire. They aren't guaranteed, but the allure of a possible strong rare card or item makes these games so much more exciting. If you take away these luck-based rewards, you remove a lot of the anticipation of opening that Slay the Spire chest, or opening that Balatro pack. The dopamine hit isn't there for the player when they get lucky. We know this reward schedule is effective since it's the same psychology used in gambling, so it should be used wisely and without taking advantage of the players. With great power comes great responsibility, and that's how we ended up with loot boxes. Think of drawing a card in a duel. You might get lucky and draw a powerful card, or just the card you needed in that moment. That potential creates anticipation, and the player will either feel good about their draw, or they'll already be on to thinking about their next draw. This also extends to things like relics or chance-based events that may or may not yield a favourable result. A great example is the misprint joker in Balatro, which adds a random multiplier to every hand you play and makes every hand become a moment of anticipation as you wait to see which multiplier you get. Chasing that dopamine hit given by this activity can be hugely addicting, and I believe that's a big part of what keeps people coming back for their next game. But reinforcement isn't the only way to be rewarded in a game. Another is patterns. Not the kind you'd find on your grandparents' wallpaper, but the kind your brain is designed to recognize. 100,000 years ago, a caveman sees 3 others eating bright red mushrooms and then perishing in agony. It is imperative for the caveman's survival that he sees and recognizes that pattern and the correlation between the consumption of a bright red mushroom and the preceding demise, so that they themselves won't eat it. And 100,000 years later, we don't just need to recognize patterns, we love to. It is very satisfying to have a scenario in a game where you've encountered a similar situation before and you're able to make a favourable decision because of that experience. If that happens and you're able to beat a boss or achieve progress towards a win condition, you might feel a similar rewarding euphoria as if you've just been given an intermittent reward. This becomes happiness for the player because the brain automatically rewards itself for its own work by releasing dopamine. The player will want to replicate this moment again and again, and if that's not enough, moments like this are often heavily rewarded, like beating a boss, to incentivize the player to keep chasing that feeling. Pattern recognition is so much fun that even when you lose, you can end a run of Slay the Spire or Balatro with a sense of progress and achievement, simply because learning combos, synergies, and patterns feels amazing. I think a fun and rewarding way we can see this in action is in Inscryption. Inscryption is a dark, card-based roguelike, with elements of psychological horror and escape rooms. In Inscryption, you get card-based rewards when you beat certain battles, a choice of 1 card from 3. This is the continuous reinforcement because you know it's coming. It's a pat on the back for another successful battle. Now, as you travel along the map, you have opportunities to take risks with your winnings. At the campfire, you are surrounded by hungry survivors. You can sit and warm a card by the fire to give it a permanent increase to its stats. But after doing so, you get the option to leave the card there for longer, increasing its stats even further. But the hungry survivors draw closer. Surviving that, you can leave it even longer again. Each time the risk is increased, but so is the reward. Leave it too long, and it'll be lost forever. Another clearing you arrive at contains a trapper which offers you some pelts. These pelts come in 3 types, each more expensive than the last. The pelts are only mildly useful in battle, so you might be tempted to keep your money and move on. But if you risk spending your hard-earned money on some pelts, you could hit it big later if you come across the trader, who will buy your pelts in return for a bigger selection of better cards with better abilities, especially if you splashed out on the golden pelts. But you might not even make it to the trader, because your hand might be so full of pelts that you might start losing battles, because instead of getting that card you needed, you've just drawn your 3rd pelt in a row. On the topic of psychology and brains, why not also dip our toes into math and probability? We've established that our brains love recognizing patterns, but they also just love doing calculations. In blackjack, you don't know what cards are left in the deck. It's hidden information. But you do know what cards you have, and if others are playing, you know what cards they have, and you also know the dealer's face-up card. This information gives you a statistical advantage, because if all the visible cards are low value, that means the hidden cards are more likely to be high value, and when the dealer draws, they're more likely to go bust. Hidden information is always an element in card games. Whether it's the order of the cards in your deck, the cards and the order in your opponent's deck, the cards in your opponent's hand, there's a lot of information you don't know, but often there is enough visible information to deduce some things about the hidden information, just like in blackjack. And our brain is well aware of this. When playing a card game, you're constantly calculating odds, even subconsciously. Your brain is always weighing risk versus reward for different plays and strategies. And when a new card comes out that potentially changes the dynamic of everything, you need to run all those calculations again to see if anything's changed. Is your strategy still possible? Is there a better play now? This is a deeply satisfying cognitive process that keeps your brain engaged, and as we know, an engaged brain is a happy brain. I said before that a huge benefit of card games is their modularity, and another benefit of that is variety. Variety adds to the replayability of a game. If the same patterns are happening over and over again, the brain won't be engaged. Patterns have to grow in complexity or change for our brains to stay engaged. And with card games, this can easily be done by shuffling the deck. You might have heard this before, but if you shuffle a 52 card deck, the cards will likely be in an order that no 52 card deck has ever been in before. That probability means virtually endless variation, which is why card games have a lot of replayability. Solitaire, the game that comes pre-installed in all Windows devices, is still massively popular after all this time because it is fun, addicting, and has endless variation. You might recognize patterns, but you will never have the exact same run. And that's enough to keep people coming back time and time again. Card games are full of limits and rules, but something that feels amazing is when you manage to beat the system. Managing to deal a massive amount of damage that one-shots a boss, or drawing your entire deck in one turn is completely broken, but it's possible in some card games. And these are not bugs or oversights by the developer. Cheating the system, or at least the illusion of cheating the system, is something you're likely to see in great card games. And that's because it's a fantastic feeling to think you've outsmarted the game. Whether you found a quicker path that the developers didn't intend you to take, or finding an exploit that allows you to reach a win condition. So how can game developers take advantage of this? Well, they can let those possibilities to break the game exist, as long as it's not easy to do. This engineered chaos is guaranteed to create huge emotional spikes if the player manages to pull off a game-breaking combo. An example of this, which I love, is in the first act of Inscryption. Inscryption has you playing cards against a mysterious opponent in a shady cabin. During the game, you're able to get up and freely walk around the room. And around the room, you can find all sorts of items and puzzles that unlock secrets or sometimes allow you to tip the scales in your favour. If you lose a run, you're also able to create a card of your own. And if you're wise and a bit lucky, you can end up with a really strong game-breaking card. I remember in my first playthrough of Inscryption that I felt like I was cheating the system because I was ending up with these busted cards, but it was always something the developer had intended. It was a chaos completely under the game's control. I always get YouTube video recommendations that are like, how I broke Slay the Spire, or you won't believe this Balatro combo. And it'll show in the thumbnail the score counter with an infinity error. These moments are spectacles that grab people's attention, and if you manage to pull it off in a game, it feels massively rewarding. So as long as it's not easy to pull off, which would be bad because the player would be forfeiting brain engagement for easy wins, then why not allow it? And the final point I want to discuss is self-expression. I had a big realization when me and my friends organised a tournament in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. You see, it's a running joke between me and my friends that I'm a lucky person, and any chance I get in a game, I'm picking the highest risk to reward option. The deck I had put together for this tournament was based around the card Double or Nothing, which I liked because it leaned into that lucky personality trait, and because my friend told me it was a terrible card. And I took that personally. I spent hours finding and filling my deck with gambling themed cards that I was testing for synergies. And eventually I had a deck that played in such a way that I would decimate the opponent on the first turn, or my Double or Nothing combo wouldn't work and I was sure to lose without a lot of lucky coin flips. And I absolutely loved that. But here's the thing. One by one I fought against each of my friends' decks that they had made for the tournament, and I realised that they had all done something similar. Each deck was also an extension of their personality. Sometimes it was the theme of the deck that matched their personality, and other times it was the function of the deck. The friend that was a Chaos Gremlin had a burn deck. The competitive friend had a fluffle deck full of never-ending combos. The plant parent had a deck full of plants, with a little regard for synergies. I realised how much deck building is a vehicle for self-expression. There was no rule or guideline that said the deck should reflect your personality, and yet deck after deck was a mirror of its owner's character. So why did everyone gravitate towards cards and gameplay that reflected themselves? Well, I personally had a lot of fun trying to build a deck around an allegedly terrible card. I didn't care if it was going to be the best, but it was going to be mine. And I think that's the secret. People take pride in finding combos and synergies that are uniquely theirs. And it's not just the cards that reflect their personalities. It's also their playstyle, whether they play chaotic, methodical, aggressive, cautious, or they're just out to cause trouble. This results in a deeper sense of ownership and identity, and when you win, it really feels like your win. And I believe that's one of the big reasons why people keep coming back to deck builders in particular, and why they're so damn popular right now. I hope you found something in this video to take away with you. I'm not a psychologist, but I have sunk many hours into card games, and I also have skin in the game. You see, I'm developing my own commercial card game, which should come as no surprise to my subscribers, seeing how the genesis of my YouTube channel is a card tutorial series for Godot. I will be releasing more information about this new card game I'm developing with my partner, and if you want an early sneak peek of the art, go and check out her Bluesky and Instagram links down below. We actually both quit our jobs recently to be able to work full time to finish this project, so hopefully you'll be able to play it soon, and if it all goes to shit, stay tuned for the autopsy video where I break down what went wrong. All of the points I've talked about in this video, by the way, are serving as the foundation for the new game I'm developing. So if I've missed something, or if you just think I'm playing wrong, let me know in the comments of this video so I can make the best game possible. With that all said, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, and subscribe if you're interested in this type of content, or if you're interested in my upcoming card game. As always, my Patreon is also linked in the description, so if you want to financially support us in making this card game, it would be hugely appreciated. That's it. Thank you everyone. Take care.